Hello everybody and welcome to this webinar. Um, Actually, I'm Eddy Willems from GData. I'm a security evangelist. But let's first of all, let's go to our first slide. So actually I'm working for GData. If you haven't come to GData yet, I advise you to do so because it's very interesting over there. We are based in Germany. Of course, we are have security solutions for home and businesses, and we are actually available in worldwide. These are our offices actually. It looks very old, but if you're coming inside, it's very new actually. So if there are any Star Trek fans over here, actually you would recognize more or less the bridge in our entrance, and this is actually our entrance of our building. So you see it's actually like the bridge of Star Trek, more or less, with some imagination. If you don't know me, I'm Eddy Willems. I'm already a long time a security expert, actually working for several companies. Actually, the most important thing I've done in my life, I think, besides, it's maybe my job is of course writing a couple of books. Actually, you can even try to find my books online at this moment. Definitely Cyber Danger in English should be available for you as well. So I hope you can enjoy that and you can try to find it on Amazon or somewhere else. Anyway, that's not what we are coming to do today, because today we're going to tell you something about the spy inside all of us. And if you look to all the threats and all the major threats we see these days, it's quite logical. We see over, at least if you count everything, we see more like 1 billion kind of malware threats outside. And all of them are nearly invisible. Actually, the part we are going to discuss today are completely invisible as well. The ones who are not visible, are actually the ones who are visible actually is ransomware. That's a completely different kind of malware, of course, which we're not going to talk about today. Of course, the real reason why malware like this exists is, of course, malware gain, money gain, sorry. That's, of course, the real reason. Now, let's have a look to what spyware really is. Spyware is actually malware that aims to gather information about a person or organization, sometimes without their knowledge, and send such information to another entity without consumer's consent. That's the definition of spyware, at least in Wikipedia. Now, if you look to what we are going to discuss today, this is very, very, well, more or less the same. Actually, what we're going to discuss today is STALKERWARE. And STALKERWARE is monitoring software or spyware. It's actually a kind of subdivision of spyware that is used for stalking. The term was coined actually when people started to widely use commercial spyware to spy on their spouses or intimate partners. And yeah, that's what we see with STALKERWARE. So let's have a look to the STALKER'S Cyber Toolkit. Actually, most of us know this, I think, like typical IP cam. This is Ring, and a lot of users are actually using this. A lot of people are actually using this. I am pretty sure that in the public today over here, some people have bought this. Actually, this device can be misused by a stalker, because you can put this everywhere actually, and you can stalk your spouse, or you can stalk your friend or whatever with it. So this is a camera, but there are so many other cameras. There are so many other tools which a stalker can use. This one seems to be like a video recorder, but it isn't. Actually, it is a camera. Another one, well, if you look at this, this seems to be a cable. Now, well, it is a cable, but it is also a camera. You can see the small camera thing over here. Yeah. So this seems like a clock, but it is, of course, a clock, but it's also a camera. And if you put this in, for instance, your bedroom, well, you know what can happen. This is a camera. It's also a clock, of course, but it is also a camera. So you have so many devices like this. Well, this is not a camera. This is actually something like to spy and to amplify the sounds from over a long distance, so you can spy on several people. But it is part of the Stalker's toolkit. Actually, well, you have a lot of GPS trackers which are actually used for stalking people as well. And then there is the mobile phone. And that's the thing we are going to talk about today. Actually, we're going to talk about, first of all, the features of STALKERWARE. Sometimes we call it also SPOUSEWARE. So first of all, it's usually installed on Android, sometimes iOS, Windows or macOS. It stays completely hidden, completely operating in the background, and it has access to nearly everything on your device. Of course, it's monitoring these, but it's also uploading these to the cloud in a lot of cases. So video, voice recordings, everything, stealing phone calls, logs, and it shares sensitive information with a third party, the stalker, normally. Mostly the installer of the software. So let's have a look to the divisions between what is stalkerware, what is spyware, what is parental control, because if you look at it, there are a lot of similarities between stalkerware, spyware, and parental control. So if you look at it, you see that stalkerware is mainly manually installed. That's exactly the same what parental control software is doing. So spyware itself, of course, is a little bit different because it's automatically installed via exploits and mail, social engineering, or whatever. Anyway, it's easily found on the internet, which is typical as well for stalkerware and parental control. And in stalkerware is also supplied as a service. And definitely, it has a very vague legal status. It's a little bit the problem with stalkerware, actually. Actually, stalkerware is really invading the privacy without users' knowledge, and it's completely silent. There's the difference with parental control, because there are a lot of notifications all around, and that's the difference. However, let's have a look how these similarities, is this the only thing which we see between parental control, spyware, and stalkerware? Well, first of all, let's have a look. Is stalkerware really so special or new? Well, let's go back with me to 2005. So this is a recording from 2005 when the German television came to my house to talk about, well, spyware, which was actually stalkerware. So this is me about, well, 15 years ago. So you see that at that moment, even stalkerware existed, and it's not away yet. So it's old, and it's still here. So why is it still popping up? Well, I think we are much more privacy aware these days. And there was also Eva Gelperin, which have talked about this subject several times. There was actually a very good TED talk about stalkerware. So these things together, the privacy aware thing, is one of the stuff. And also, you know, there is a lot of people who are complaining about, you know, the Me Too generation, all that stuff. Well, that's actually the reason why stalkerware is becoming now more visible in, you know, in the world. So it's better timing. Now let's have a look to the definition of stalkerware from a technical point of view. First of all, we call it apps that share sensitive user data with the installer without explicit consent and persistent notification of the affected user. That is STALKERWARE. So apps that present themselves as a spying or secret surveillance solution. And apps that are capable of tracking users and monitoring user behavior and do not provide explicit notification to the users. So this is what we call STALKERWARE. Now, let's have a look to the promotion and the advertising. If you look to STALKERWARE, we see that, well, it's like commercial spyware, actually, which is advertised via online banners and social media very aggressively. You can see it really everywhere. If you really look around a little bit. It's also advertised on social media by bloggers with millions of views, actually. And the commercial spyware developers even use black SEO techniques. So STALKERWARE on itself can easily be found after a quick internet search. If you type it in, you will find it, definitely. But if you look to how it promotes itself, it's completely different maybe, because STALKERWARE, well, this is how they advertise themselves. This is this is an example. And this is advertising themselves as something like parental control software. So it's for parents, it's for yourself, it's even for employers. Pay attention, employers, yes. And we have seen cases actually where employers are using it as well. Now, this is another example. This is how they advertise themselves. You know, they show the features: stealth mode, record calls, phone internet history, track Facebook messages, track SMS, WhatsApp spy, you know, track phone location. All these things, this is how they typically advertise themselves to the public. It's a parental control software thingy. Now, this is another one. So the world's most powerful monitoring software for computers, mobile phones, and tablets. Well, if I look at this FlexiSpy, actually FlexiSpy was also mentioned in the documentary about which I showed a couple of moments ago, 15 years ago, and it's still over here. It's still there. Actually, if I look at this, I want to have it, isn't it? Well, maybe you should think twice. Anyway, the thing is, how do they make money? Well, easy. Because the pricing is mostly a service, and it's 25 euros a month. That's how they make money out of it. So is it difficult to install STALKERWARE? Or how could you get infected with STALKERWARE? Actually, that's maybe the strange thing. It is manually installed in, let us say, most of the cases. Now, you should say, or you could say, wow, okay, then it's not that simple to install, and that's right. So if you're not that technical, you know, good in all those technical things to install it on your friend's phone or whatever, well, so if you want an easier way to install FlexiSpy in this case, then just purchase the installation service, and they install it together with you. So it's quite easy. Think about it. Yeah. And so, you know, they give more explanations, they give more. Even iOS is no problem at all. Say they always have a possibility to install the STALKERWARE. So what about iOS? Well, iOS, of course, is much more problematic than if you install something like this on Android. So it's a much longer process to install. The STALKERWARE has less features available. And for most functions, the devices needs to be jailbroken or installed via an MDM, the mobile device management system. But there are always possibilities to install STALKERWARE on iOS devices. This is just an example. And of course, when there is a new iOS upgrade, this page is also replaced by new possibilities as well. So do we have a lot of stalkerware? Well, you have a lot of names. These are a couple of them which we track down. This is just examples, actually. So most of them over here are Android stalkerwares over here. There are a lot, yes. Now, I always sometimes get a question, is stalkerware available in official app stores? Well, I can tell you that the stalkerware is sometimes available in some cases, indeed, on the app stores. However, it disappears mostly very quickly. But we have seen cases where we track down stalkerware on those stores. However, in most cases, it's just on the web. So you can easily find it on the web. And then, of course, you always can install it by different ways. So what are the most affected countries or users, actually? Well, if you look at this, well, there are some specific countries which seems to be targeted much more than other countries. And actually, if you look to this, it's like Germany, Italy, UK, France, Spain. Yeah, well, you know, it's very big countries, of course. And of course, yeah, with a lot of users. We don't know why we see these things over there, but we see it a lot. Also, the US is, of course, in that list. I will tell you more about that soon. So the real problem is, of course, the vague legal status of stalkerware in the countries. You could say that stalkerware in a lot of countries is legal, because they promote themselves as something like parental control software. However, if you dig down, you see that it's much more than parental control software. However, in some countries, it seems to be legit. Or they are sometimes what we call just on the edge of what is legal. And that's the problem. Now, what really is worrying me is this. And these are things we see more and more these days. Like Barclays installs Big Brother style spyware on employees' computers. This is not a good thing. This is something you should think about twice if you see this popping up. I don't know if this is really legal. This is not legal in most of the countries, but yes, it seems to be possible in the US. This is a very strange article from CNET. 1 in 10 Americans use stalkerware to track partners and access. Come on, what is happening in the States? This is not going into the right direction. So this means that, of course, stalkerware is interesting to create, it seems, but it's of course not good for us or for the people who are stalked with it. A stalkerware app leaked phone data from thousands of victims, and that's the other problem. It seems that one of the apps we've seen these days, and we've seen also in our presentation, seems to be leaking phone data because you are dealing with, okay, a company, but does it have any security measures in place to guard the data? Well, obviously not, if you read this. A stalkerware developer demands TechCrunch to remove article detailing its leaking of sensitive data. Now, this is definitely also not going into the right direction. So this is not good. This means that some stalkerware vendor seems to be wanting that that article is not published. So, well, you know, I actually completely against this kind of thing. So maybe there is some truth in it, but this is definitely not a good thing to do. So what can we do? What are the technical challenges? And what can you do? So let's first of all look to the what I call solutions from us. Well, STALKERWARE is sometimes considered legal in some countries and is not identified as malware. However, when many security products detect it and alert users about it, so it is maybe changing. And also, what we see is that mostly, that's one of the problems we have, of course, at this moment. We cannot just only detect these kind of things. So what we do is that we mostly detected it as a potentially unwanted application. So sometimes you need to switch this feature on in your product to be able to detect it. So it's a special category. So this is one problem we are dealing with in our products because of the legality or the vague legal status. Then secondly, the security industry problem, the technical challenges itself. First of all, if you have something on your phone with this, well, the security apps themselves can't remove a privileged app, and most STALKERWARE are privileged apps. An app with device administrator rights can prevent its removal. An app can interact with the security app user interface via accessibility services. So, you know, it's like a game, you know, we can't do too much about it. So what you need to do is you need to call actually your security provider at that moment. Now, the classic danger, the more security apps detect STALKERWARE apps, the more difficult to detect they will become. That's the other problem. So what should we do? It's not an easy answer, I think. What can you do? Well, first of all, protect the access to your device, meaning that you use, your fingerprint, your face recognition, or your passwords, of course. If you have a password or fingerprint, don't share those password fingerprints with others, even with your spouse, even with your best friend or whatever, because that's sometimes the problem. Yeah, because they are installing the STALKERWARE on your system. Install a security app. At least if you have a security app in place, you can detect that there is something on the device itself. To get rid of it, that's another thing. If suspicion, call your security vendor. They are going to help you. Now, if you still have a lot of other questions, what you always can do, get in touch with the stopstalkerware.organization. And this is interesting because, you know, there is an organization. I will show that to you within the next slides. Another thing, if you are, well, if suspicion, reach out to the police, because this is something for the police to handle. Now, stopstalkerware.org is indeed an interesting coalition against STALKERWARE. There are a lot of firms, a lot of security firms, and other groups which are against this kind of software. These are just a couple of the founders of this Stop STALKERWARE organization. So if you need some more information, go to that website and try to contact them. Thank you. That's more or less all I had to present today. If you have some questions, I'm glad to answer them in the next answer session.